Ever been told to get off your own land? Yeah, that actually happened. More than once, in fact. The first time, Robert Jameson just laughed. Then he realized they weren't kidding. At 42, after years of scraping by, double shifts, every dime funneled into that rough patch of Arizona soil, he'd finally staked his claim, and nobody, absolutely nobody, was going to make him feel like an outsider on property he'd broken his back to own. This wasn't just about farming, not for Robert. This was about honoring a name, carrying the pride of his family, and building something real, something that would last, even after he was long gone. You know what I mean? From the edge of Mesa, where the suburbs just start to crumble into raw desert, Robert's land stretched out, rows of tilled earth, a stubborn red barn, all of it hard-won. But across the street, manicured lawns and look-alike houses lined up like soldiers. And if you looked close, you'd spot Linda Cartwright, president of the local HOA, perched on her porch like some kind of self-appointed sheriff. Not a mayor, not elected, but in her mind, she ran things. The first week, she didn't just glance, she stared. And when she finally crossed over, clipboard in hand, it wasn't for a welcome. "What's all this machinery doing here?" she demanded. He wiped his brow, kept it calm. "Ma'am, this is my land. Bought and paid for. The HOA doesn't apply here." Her mouth tightened. Her pen scratched furiously across her clipboard, and Robert suddenly saw this wasn't about rules. It was about power. She just didn't like what she couldn't control. Weeks blurred by, Linda always hovering, slowing her car, making jabs at meetings, dropping concerns about his equipment. Robert tried to tune it out. Plant, fix, repeat. But every time he glanced up and caught her glare, the pressure crawled under his skin. Farming's hard enough without feeling like you're under a microscope, you know? Still, he kept his head down. The land was good. The work was honest. But one night, as cicadas hummed and he sipped sweet tea on the porch, his phone lit up, his kid's sister, checking in. "How's the new place?" He wanted to vent, but all he texted back was, "Land's good. Hard work." Because complaining wasn't his style. He'd deal. Or so he thought. Next morning, the sun barely up, Robert's hauling feed when he hears the familiar crunch of gravel. Linda, marching up, posture stiff as a board. "That structure violates HOA standards," she says, jabbing a finger at the barn like it's a crime scene. "It's not approved." He peels off his gloves, tells her, again, it's agricultural zoning, not part of the HOA. "Every property affects values," she snaps, voice rising as neighbors pretend to check their mail, but really watch the showdown. "I didn't move here to drive property values," he answers. "I moved here to farm." Her eyes flicker. "If you don't cooperate, I'll escalate." He leans in, not backing down. "Escalate to what? You have no authority here." She storms off with a threat. "You'll regret being difficult." The kind of warning that doesn't just hang in the air, it sticks to your ribs. Later that day, at the hardware store, old Carl from down the road pulls Robert aside. "She's like that with everyone," Carl says, but his eyes say something more. "She's worse with people she can't push around." By the time Robert's back, there are unsigned HOA notices taped to his mailbox, accusing him of noise violations and improper land use. He shakes his head. She doesn't quit. And every day, the whispers around the neighborhood grow a little louder. And then it turns ugly. A slip of paper, no signature, stuffed in his mailbox. "This isn't farmland. Leave." Tire tracks in the dirt, fresh gouges where no vehicle should be, someone messing with his land. Robert crouches, fingers in the soil, feeling the old anger rise. Carl just whistles when he hears about it. She's trying to get a reaction. Don't give it to her. Robert tries, but it's getting harder. At the next HOA meeting, Linda stands and announces, "The East Side is changing the look of our community. Property values dropping, farming activities all hours, and the smell." The murmurs ripple, but Robert stands, clear and steady. "My land's not under HOA jurisdiction. I followed the law. I'm not breaking any rules." The room quiets. Sharon, a timid neighbor, pipes up, but it does change the neighborhood's feel. Robert nods, respectful. "My land's here to grow food, provide work, something real. I respect your lawns, respect mine." For a moment, silence. Then Linda slams her clipboard. "We'll see what the authorities have to say." Robert leaves, refusing to give her the satisfaction. But he knows, things are coming to a head. Sure enough, the next morning, Linda's waiting again. No clipboard this time, just fury. You're done. If you don't remove this equipment by the end of the week, I'll call the police. Robert stares her down, voice steady. Call whoever you want, but you won't like the outcome. She smirks. We'll see. Neighbors watch from behind curtains. He knows it's not an idle threat anymore. Saturday morning, he's unloading equipment when Linda storms over, voice sharp. This ends today. You're violating everything we stand for. Neighbors are gathering. Kids pulled inside. Folks pretending to garden. The tractor, the mess. You expect us to believe this belongs here? Robert folds his arms. That tractor feeds people. She sneers. I'm the HOA president. If you won't comply, I'll take it further. He answers, calm. The law isn't on your side. She grins, cold. I'll make the law see my side. Watch me. She dials 911, raising her voice so everyone hears. There's a suspicious man on my property. He's dangerous, refusing to leave. Robert feels every eye on him. He knows how fast things can spiral, how a lie like that can stick. I am not threatening you. I'm on my own property, and you know it. But Linda's busy performing for the crowd, painting him as the villain. Sirens start up, distant but growing louder. The neighborhood is frozen, breath held. Robert's heart pounds, but he stands tall. The cruisers pull up, Deputy Carla Monroe, Deputy Luis Ortega. Robert knows them both. Linda rushes over. Thank God. That man is trespassing, threatening me, harassing the neighborhood. Carla looks from Linda to Robert, then back. Can you point to where this happened? Linda gestures wildly. He dragged all that equipment onto my land. Ortega, cool as ever, says, that's his property, ma'am, not yours. The crowd shifts. Linda tries again, the HOA, but Carla cuts her off. HOA doesn't override county zoning. We're familiar with this land. It's his. Robert steps forward, voice even. I've done nothing illegal. She called you under false pretenses. Linda's voice cracks. He was glaring at me. Intimidating. That's when Robert slowly pulls his badge, lets it catch the sun. The crowd goes dead quiet. I don't just know the law. I enforce it. You just called 911 on a deputy sheriff standing on his own land. Carla doesn't blink, but the neighbors sure do. Greg, the neighbor, mutters, wait, he's a deputy? Carla turns to Linda. Ma'am, filing a false police report is serious. Did he threaten you? Linda's all flustered. I felt threatened. He was just there. Ortega shakes his head. That's not a threat. That's a man working on his property. The crowd is buzzing now. She called the cops on her own neighbor. He's a deputy. Robert tucks the badge away. You didn't call because of equipment. You called because you didn't like me being here. But I'm not going anywhere. Linda looks for support, but all those heads that used to nod along, they're turned away now. Carla tells Robert, we'll file a note about the call. You're good here. Linda tries to push back, but Ortega stands firm. Safety means facts, not feelings. This man's done nothing wrong. The neighborhood's murmurs grow. For the first time, Linda looks small. She storms off, blushing, but not before Robert says, it ended the moment you lied to the police. Think about that before you make another call. The seeds of doubt are sown, and people are talking. That night, Sharon stops by, eyes down. I didn't know you were law enforcement. I shouldn't have let her sway me. Robert shrugs. Doesn't change who I am or what I do. By morning, everyone knows what happened. Even at the coffee shop, strangers are shaking their heads. Can you believe she did that? The more word spreads, the less grip Linda has. Neighbors who barely looked at Robert now wave. Some even stop to chat. But Linda? She's not done. HOA newsletters, veiled threats, county complaints. She tries it all. But each new move fizzles. People have seen too much. Greg stops by, voice low. She's saying you embarrassed her on purpose. She's spinning it, man. Robert sighs. She embarrassed herself. But he knows Linda isn't finished, not really. Another HOA meeting rolls around. Robert sits in the back, quiet. This time, the room's mood is different. A neighbor stands up. Enough of this. He owns the land. It's legal. Let's move on. Others agree. Linda bangs her papers, but her voice doesn't command the room anymore. Another woman says, protecting the community doesn't mean harassing someone who's done nothing wrong. Robert finally stands, voice calm. Neighbors should look out for each other, not tear each other down. I came here to work, not to fight. Calling the police on someone for doing nothing wrong, that's not protecting the community. That's damaging it. There's a ripple of applause. Linda's glare could cut steel, but nobody rallies to her defense. Back home, Robert sits under the stars, thinking about his dad, about dignity, how it's earned, not given. The incidents changed things, but not everyone sees it that way. Some still side with Linda, whispering about abuse of authority, but they're fewer and quieter now. Sharon brings cookies, says her son's been asking questions about right and wrong. People don't get to decide who belongs just because they don't like what they see, Robert tells her. Word by word, day by day, the neighborhood shifts. Linda files her complaints, but they fall flat. People wave at Robert, ask about his crops, even offer help. Greg laughs one night. We all thought Linda was keeping this place together. Turns out, she was just keeping us scared. Robert smiles. Respect isn't about how loud you are. It's about how consistent you are. He knows. If he hadn't had that badge, things could have gone sideways fast. That's the real lesson. Assumptions can ruin lives. He sits on his porch, desert night thick around him, and lets the words hang. Don't let fear dictate who belongs. So if you're listening, ask yourself, are you building respect or letting suspicion call the shots? For Robert, it's simple. Keep working, keep showing up, stand tall in the truth. Dignity's not something you get from others. It's how you live every single day. If this story makes you think, share your take. What's fair, what's right, and what kind of neighbor would you be? Because sometimes, what looks like just a squabble over a fence turns out to be a whole neighborhood deciding who they really are.